Known and not loved is our greatest fear, but to be fully known and truly loved is, well, a lot like being loved by God. It is what we need more than anything. It liberates us from pretense, humbles us out of our self righteousness, and fortifies us for any difficulty life can throw at us. So when you know that God loved you in your horrible state, brought to a point of salvation, and even in your salvation and while you're living in his righteousness, you're still not perfect. You still fall short of God's glory every once in a while, like, and God still loves us. Even now, He loved us then, He still loves us. He knows all of this, but still chooses to love us. And that's very comforting. Right? And that's where God is trying to take us to, where you not just know those around you, but know them and still love them. I think it's worse when you know somebody and based on what you now know, you decide to shut them off from the love that God has filled you with. Right? So that's our greatest fear. And it's not fair to do it to anybody around us. And the parable of the Good Samaritan actually symbolizes this, where the priest and the Levite, what they did in ignoring the guy who was mobbed was that they just decided that I don't want to know, right? Like they just blocked their eyes and just did not want to. They were not interested in knowing what's going on, because at that point they might have been driven to do something or whatever the case may be. But like basically, what they symbolized was us not caring enough to even be interested in the lives of others, right? They just shut their eyes and like it's better we don't even know. Like they don't want to, so they don't have to love, right? And it's not like we don't know how to love for the most part, because we know how to love based on God's love for us, but to an extent we might be scared, we might be afraid of loving, we might be afraid of being interested or being involved in someone else's life. Because right, it can be overwhelming sometimes. Right? So like I said, the first step to loving is to know. Right? And for the purpose of this lesson, first thing you need to know is to know God. Right? So we need to understand God and what He has done for us. We need to understand the love He has showed us in paying the ultimate price for our salvation. And then we can love somebody else if we understand that and we know that. I'm going to read from 1 John 4, 7 and 8. It says, Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. Okay, so the first step to loving those around us is to know God, know what He has done for us. God is love, and we cannot give what we do not have, right? So I think Dr. Sandra made the point last week as well, like you cannot give something you do not own, right? So let's start by knowing God. How do we do that? By studying the Word, by listening to sermons, and by fellowshipping with one another, because we are made in the image of God. Everything God created was for His pleasure. Like even just understanding what God has done in the creation story is enough to know, like to learn a little bit about God's mind and how He loves us so much that everything we need to survive on earth He has provided for us, and He paid the price for the salvation of our souls and all of that. When you know how much love God has shown us, then you will be able to love one another and those around us. The second one, which I've already mentioned, is to get to know people. Right? We don't want to be like the priest and the Levite in the story of the Good Samaritan, where we're like, oh, I don't want to know. Like you have to be genuinely interested in people. You have to be involved in the lives of people to be able to even show them love. You cannot love people from afar. It's not feasible. It's not something you can do. And we don't have enough time to read the whole of John chapter 4. But like you see what Jesus did with the Samaritan woman at the well. He didn't just go and start preaching, oh, you're going to die, you're going to go to hell if you don't give your life to Christ, and Christ give your life to me. Like he went there and he was actually interested in what her life story was. He spoke with her for a long time. Like he was just chatting with her, he asked her for water, and then just the next thing you know, the whole village is coming out to hear the salvation story. Right? You cannot love people from afar. That's the point I'm trying to get at. You have to be involved in their lives. You need to be genuinely interested in their story, their life's journey so far, to be able to show them any kind of genuine love. Right? So let's learn from what Jesus did in John chapter 4 and engage people in conversations. Let's seek to listen before we even start sharing whatever it is we think we have to share. Because really, it's not in what we are sharing, but it's how we do it, God's spirit and what we do that helps, even drive the gospel forward when we eventually share the gospel story. And then the third thing, which is also something I've mentioned consistently, is that we need to pay love forward. So basically, like, you come to Canada, you see, you get to the door, somebody puts the door open for you, and then you do the same for the person behind. When you're paying it forward, somebody does something nice for you, you do it nice for somebody else, not necessarily to who did it to you, right? So we need to pay love forward. So like I said, we've learned from God's show of love, now we need to do it to others. In equal measure or in whatever measure we can, right? Love is costly. Like, it might be free to receive and it might seem nice because it's a precious gift, but to the person giving, it's costly, it's sacrificial. It's not something that it's not easy to be interested in lives of people. Like, you can't just go around, chatting and like giving of yourself, give them money, give them clothes, give them whatever it is they need out of love. It costs money, it costs time, it costs energy. It's a precious gift, but it's free to receive. And I think it's free up until the point where you're in a place where you should show love to somebody who is in need of love. But at that point, it's only right for you to then pay it forward. Now show love to this person who sometime in the future, whether like you know or you don't, in the future they will show love to somebody else, and we like gradually we make the world a better place. Right? So Jesus gave us some examples of like how like some practical ways to show love in Matthew 25:35 to 36. He says, "For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me." Right? Remember when I said love is tender, love is helpful, forgiving, and all of those things. We need to learn to do those things to people because somebody has done it for us, and even if somebody hasn't, God has done it for us. So it's time for us to pay it forward because I believe all of us are blessed and in a position to show God's love to those around us, right? So we don't want to be like the unmerciful servant who received a huge forgiveness of his debt and then went and choked somebody for a minor offense. We want to be more like the good Samaritan who saw a Jew who normally they don't interact with, but decided to help him, took him to the hospital, paid in advance, and like said, if there's any more, just let me know when I'm back, I'll pay the balance and whatnot. We need to learn to be more like the Samaritan as opposed to the unmerciful servant. Right? God has graciously blessed us with the gift of love, right? He gave it to us. We received it free of charge. It was costly, but we received it free of charge. Now it's time for us to pay it forward. Right? We can only share the truth of the gospel effectively if there is love. And to buttress that point, I'll share one more quote from Timothy Keller. It says, "Love without truth is sentimentality. It supports and affirms us, but keeps us in denial about our flaws. But truth without love is harshness. It gives us information, but in such a way that we cannot really hear it. God's saving love in Christ, however, is marked by both radical truthfulness about who we are and yet also radical and unconditional commitment to us." And so commitment is one of the definitions of love we have, where you're committed and genuinely interested. So the combination of truth and love is what can help us drive the gospel forward. You can't just go and be speaking truth to people that you don't love. People, and you can't love them, do not know them. You cannot know them if you're not genuinely interested in their lives. You cannot know them if you don't engage them in conversation like Jesus did with the Samaritan woman at the well of Jacob. And so if we want to be disciples of Christ, spreading the good news of salvation, which is the greatest love story, mind you, we must grow in love for God, for each other, and with everyone around us. We must love everyone, not because we don't have any moral beliefs or standards. Like, think about it, maybe the Levites they were like, "Oh, I'm too right to even look at this guy who's here beside me." Like, we're not loving everyone because we don't have any religious beliefs or any standards, but we're loving them because of our religious beliefs. Like, our love for Christ is what's driving us to love people. Whether or not we agree with them, whether or not they agree with us, like, that's irrelevant. The commandment God gave us was to love him as you love yourself. Did not specify love only the tall, skinny. Says to love everybody. So let's do just that. And to wrap it up, I'll read from 1 John 4 from 7 to 21. Just to kind of summarize what this whole thing is all about. It says, dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. This is how we know that we live in him and he in us. He has given us of his Spirit. And we have seen and testified that the Father has sent his Son to be the Savior of the world. If anyone acknowledges that Jesus is the Son of God, God lives in them and they in God. And so we know and rely on the love that God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them. This is how love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment. In this world, we are like Jesus. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. We love because he first loved us. Whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother and sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. And he has given us this commandment. Anyone who loves God must also love their brother and sister. So just to recap, we love because it's a commandment, it's evidence of Christ-like nature, and because we have received it from God. Therefore, we have to show love by knowing God, by knowing people, and by paying love forward.